Good evening and welcome to Legal Tech Live. I'm your host, Nick Rishwain. We're here with two friends and past guests of the show tonight. We've got Ivy Gray. Ivy is the Vice President of Strategy and Business Development for Wordrake. You can find them at wordrake.com. And our other guest tonight is Chris Cangero. And Chris is the Chief Executive Officer of DocStyle LLC. And they're here tonight to talk about this project. And I've come to this project with very little knowledge. It's called the Effectiveness Project, and it's about document competency. And they're going to inform me, they're going to inform you what it's all about. Ivy and Chris, welcome back to the show, both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
The pleasure is mine. So the Effectiveness Project, document competency on the website, and the website is LTC4, the letter 4.org. And the tagline says what every legal professional should know for effective and efficient drafting in Microsoft Word. So that gives me some idea of what's going on here, but we'll start with Ivy. Ivy, what is the point of the Effectiveness Project? This is a variety of legal tech companies are involved in this, generally on the writing and drafting side, it appears. So how did this come to be? And what is the overall goal?
So the Effectiveness Project is this international collaboration of legal professionals, everyone from vendors and academics to paralegals and trainers. If you have a role in getting things done in the legal world, then we looked for somebody like you to be part of the Effectiveness Project. And the main goal was to move people from a random focus on efficiency to creating better documents that are effective and doing it the right way. We've seen a lot of people spend a ton of time creating documents with little regard to the value that anybody was getting from the time that they were spending. And this project aims to correct that. My ultimate goal is to make the duty of technology competence actually have some teeth and give people some guidance. But once we started on this project, I realized that we all realized that we just weren't there yet. We needed to lay some of the foundation. Chris, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah,
I don't want to talk over you.
Yeah, sure. So what was really exciting about this project for me, was that we were talking about the legal process as it kind of overlaps into the technology tools and how to take advantage of what's inherently inside of Office and Microsoft Word, but also simultaneously point out ways which you could improve your efficiency and thereby improve effectiveness. And that, I think, was the ultimate goal, was to try to say there's a very large amount of work that needs to be done from the point of creation all the way through to the point where the document leaves the door. And you want to make sure that the client has the best possible quality in the work product that's produced. And so to me, that was what really was exciting about the project and made me want to be a part of it. And part of it was also that coming to this with a piece of knowledge as a contributor, that was huge, because not only am I contributing and providing, but I'm also learning from the others on the team who are all experts in their respective areas, and it's all being done for the betterment of the profession.
Yeah, I like that. Who started that? What is LTC for? Because is that an organization that DocStyle and Wordrake and others had become a part of, or did you guys create this LTC for?
So LTC4 is the Legal Technology Competency Certification Coalition, and it existed before we came about.
Okay.
And the Wordrake group, we wanted to find a project to do with LTC4 because we liked them so much. But I didn't want to do the same sort of thing over and over again. Everybody has an affiliate program. Everybody has, this CLE thing, and it's not newsworthy. It's not exciting. It's not moving the needle forward. I wanted to create something else. And this project is what came out of that. And I actually think it's pretty exciting because LTC4 has been product agnostic its entire time. And they want to support growth and providing guidance and best practices to the legal world. But they were also really concerned about this turning into one big commercial for any specific vendor. And their concern about that really helped us create the right sort of product that would work for anybody. And we couldn't get too high on ourselves. And I think that's one of the things that is going to make this have lasting impact versus if a couple of vendors got together and it was just a thinly veiled approach to sell our own thing.
Right.
So I came up with the concept and LTC4 bought in. And then I started working with Tony Gerdes, who is in training and knowledge management off at Kremen. And he's been my counterpart through this whole thing. And he's outstanding. So I want to give a big shout out to Tony. And we were the first two to really jump in. We started building the team. One of the things that Chris and I talk about all the time is that this is really one of the first times that vendors have had a seat at the table, if not the first time. And I think that having vendors participate is really important because lawyers and people where documents are just part of what they do, they aren't thinking about how it could be better. They just want to be done. Their only goal is done. And I didn't want to be trapped in that world. I wanted to move on and work with people who were going to do much more analysis and had a vested interest in figuring out how we could be better. Chris, do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
So I want to pause there for a second, Chris. So the lawyer or the user on the end who's doing the job, we're often concerned with task completion, not
Right.
with improve. This is the task that I have to get done so that I can move on to the next task. That's not what you're trying to, okay, but how can we improve the entire efficiency of those tasks?
Right. So
and the effectiveness.
And the effectiveness.
Right.
Okay. So Chris, go ahead.
So when an attorney looks at, time as the most important factor and they try to put all their effort into getting the job done and moving to the next client, you end up looking at tools and you look at vendors in how can you help me get this done faster? Not how can you help me get this done well? And from a vendor's perspective, it's actually a little different because we get in there and we want to understand why. What is your problem? Why are you struggling? Do you even know you have a problem? And if not, how can we identify that and now turn that into a mechanism? And how do we deliver that to you in a way that you'll be able to consume it and build it into your workflow? And that, there are lots of different vendors with different specialties and different perspectives. And when we build these tools, we're not considering the whole of the entire process. We're usually focusing on one or several pieces of it. So
where usually that vendor's tool comes into play.
Right, exactly. So the vendor has an understanding of what their tool does and what the tools that relate to them are designed to do as that handoff happens. But as we get farther out and farther away from what we're doing, we don't necessarily have that direct knowledge. So the attorney or the legal professional actually, you want them to have an understanding for the entire process. And, no one person has all that knowledge. So, from a vendor's perspective, we actually, look at and really pick apart the issue and the problem. And we try to really build creative technology in a way that's not only, invaluable to the end user, but also, something that, has been evaluated against what Office does inherently, evaluated against what other vendors provide in a competitive fashion. So when we look at it, we have a very high level, a very detailed oriented level approach to, figuring out how to build that product in the best way we possibly can that supports the user's experience. So coming with that experience and that knowledge and understanding helps us participate and collaborate with the other vendors that are involved, and not only them, but also the legal professionals who are involved in this process as well. Like Ivy said in the beginning, we have in this team, there are academics, there are IT professionals, there are attorneys, there are a lot of different people with a lot of different roles and experience sets. And I think when you finally add vendors to that mix, it's just an untapped resource that can be drawn upon because we want to help you.
And it's a collaborative approach rather than the vendor focusing on their particular niche. So what, how long is this project going to go on for? What are the, I should say, what are the deliverables that's going to come out of the effectiveness project?
So the first thing we needed to do was to establish a foundation for the document drafting process.
Okay.
And that's what this first paper that we released on August 18th, 2021 was. It took 18 months of work where we analyzed the process and we broke it down into modular workflows. We explained why you should care about this specific thing, like cleaning metadata. And then and how that fits into your process. And then we gave you ways to do it for free in Microsoft Word, and ways to do it at a professional level and just blow it out of the water with a tech tool. And for each thing, we gave several options. And so that's how we started. Okay. And from there, you can take the next step. But without establishing the ground rules and giving people the foundation to move forward, you can't get very far. Ultimately, my goal is to address the billable hour and get people to work better because they know that their work might not be billable. But that is, even though I love that idea, it's really a long grass sort of thing. So in between time, the next step is that we've subdivided our group into a how group and a why group.
Okay. And
the how will work on implementation, and the why will work on generating that self-assessment or whatever whatever it is that prompts somebody who's actually working on a document to say, I could be doing a better job, or there must be a better way. And we need to have that introspective moment to really move forward. Wagging our fingers and creating ethics rules only gets you so far. At the end of the day, the person actually doing the work needs to have some internalized care and drive to do better.
And not be stuck in the formatting hell because I actually know the rules. I'm not spending too much time formatting that I can't bill for because I actually know what the best practices are. Is that essentially the end goal there? Start with the foundations, but now we have best practices, create those best practices that can become the standard in legal drafting.
So this project actually gives you some of those best practices already. Okay. We describe it as a best practices guide. So if nothing else happened and everyone went and downloaded this and then used it for their training programs and onboarding new associates and training paralegals, we would still have made a difference, and people would still know a lot more about the process and the possibilities than they did before.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not just about formatting, and it's not just about the tools and Microsoft Word. So it's also about, the reason why good writing is important. It's also about, the legal process and what you go through when you're drafting a document. And it takes into consideration the different things that you would need to do during that process. And one of the interesting things that, you'll learn, like what Ivy was talking about metadata, is most people think about metadata as like the end, like the last thing you do before it goes out the door. It's actually an important part of the process in the beginning. When you're considering repurposing an old document, you want to not only make sure that you get all the information that's visible in the document out, but also the information that may be hidden that came from some document that you're repurposing from 5 years ago. And that, it kind of opens people's eyes to, when you lay it out the way we did, it's not just about plugging a tool or selling something in terms of what it ultimately does, but how it helps you throughout the process, and understanding the process in a more intimate fashion, because there are silos in legal, right? So that not everybody has an understanding of the entire gambit. So, this kind of opens you up to that. And now you're at least aware and understand of what someone else may be doing as you're collaborating and contributing together. And that makes for a better working environment to drive a product ultimately.
So I need to give a quick shout out.
Please.
So Doug Lusk from NSLT, which is the National Society for Legal Technicians, or for Legal Technology. He's the one who came up with the idea of breaking it down into stages. And then Sherry Capel from Latera helped us to build that out, and really just took on so much work in creating those initial drafts. So they definitely deserve a huge shout out and kudos for the work that they did. It changed our perspective, and I think that it gave us a far better approach that more people are going to get value from.
Excellent. Certainly Doug Lusk, he's a member in the Facebook group, and we see his name around in the legal technology space. So excellent work. And the other name was, one more time?
Sherry Capel.
Sherry Capel,
Yes,
thank you.
from Latera. She's an evangelist.
Okay, excellent. We've got Jasmine Gavigan and Karen Renee with us tonight in the Zoom room, Mo Lilienthal over in the Facebook group. So folks, if you have questions about the effectiveness project for our guests, please get them in. We'd be happy to answer them live.
So can I talk about one thing that I just think is really cool?
Yeah, it's your show. Go for it.
So one of the big things about this project and our deliverable is that we wanted to make it usable. And usable means a lot of things. So the document itself had to be interactive. And so all of the inner document navigation needed to work. So that meant stylings, that meant the navigation pane, and fully using every accessibility tool so that it would be a useful, usable document.
Okay.
And we also realized that people wouldn't necessarily print it out. So we had to think about how it would function on a screen and on a page. And then we needed to have a website that would be interactive and allow people to navigate to the document and use it however they might need. So they might need a checklist that they'll use before they start writing. They might use a checklist for training. They might use a module to teach. And we wanted to give people all of those different approaches. And I definitely want Chris to come back and talk about the interactive website. But the last thing is that we needed to be conceptually flexible as well. And that's why we used the modules and the drafting stages, because not every lawyer, not every legal professional uses the same approach or uses the same tools at the same time. And the way that we've structured this, we've given people building blocks that they can use in any way that works for their own practice. And again, it just had to be usable so that you could find it and take advantage of that. And I think this is a great time to talk about the work that One Wordflow did to help us make that possible. Chris?
Yeah. Well, so One Wordflow is a relationship that I had made about a year ago. They're an organization in Australia, and what they do is digitize documents. So they take Word documents and PDF files, and they turn them into web pages.
Oh, cool.
I had met Bruce Wren, who's the CEO, and his team and they're exceptionally smart people. And they came to us looking for a way to improve their PDF conversion. So we were working with them on ways to do that. And as that relationship has kind of, grown and developed over time, we started working together with Ivy and Tony and the others in the Effectiveness Project. It just made sense to, as we were talking about, how can we deliver this document in a way that everybody could utilize, to ask them if they would allow us to use their platform and share this document with everyone. So one of the really nice things about this project is that we can use OneWordFlow's platform to deliver the document in an interactive fashion, where there are links in every page and there are references throughout, and the modules are broken out where they're selectable and you can focus just down on them, or you can, go through the entire document and you walk through page by page. And you have references to other areas and other points and external connections. So as we say, okay, here's how you can do this in Microsoft Word, you literally have the link that takes you right to the page that you want to go to on the website in the LTC4 platform. And so it's all interconnected and it's all put up there, and it's just a wonderful service. And I have to say thank you on behalf of the Effectiveness Project, but also just for myself. I asked them to help us with this, and they came through, and we would not be able to have provided this without their support. And it's just a wonderful service, and I think we're all very appreciative of their effort.
This is really interesting from a collaborative process on drafting of documents. When you are creating this, your first deliverable, this document has to be its best possible outcome, right? Because this is the example that we're using to convince people how we should write more efficiently and effectively. That means we really have to create a beautiful interactive experience, whether they print it or they look at it online.
Well, we have to meet people where they are.
High pressure.
That is high pressure.
Right. So we're meeting people where they are is really what it comes down to.
But all those end user, you have to take into account all those potential end users.
Right.
That's really an interesting, and you're doing this in an international collaboration of vendors. So that's kind of a interesting, and this is just document one. So a lot of effort had to go into how this appears. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just saying, yes, definitely. And I think that everyone who participated learned something. So I have always been the person who collects the pieces of the document at the end and puts it all together. So I hadn't I hadn't deeply considered real-time collaboration. And Sherry was really in charge of that part of the process. And it was great to have her input there and to have that chance to learn. And when Chris and I were talking yesterday, he was saying that he learned some new things that he hadn't seen either. By the way, Nick, you're just messaging the panelists. Do you want to be messaging everyone?
On my end, it says, oh yeah, you're right. I will push that for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So Chris, do you want to talk about your favorite thing?
Can you be here for every one of these, Ivy, in case I'm just doing this all the time? I'm going to need you to join the show from now on.
Well, she has been a host before. She's done a fantastic job.
Yeah, she has. So why is that? See,
she has the skills to do it.
And it's not sharing the other link now. So, all right, continue on, Ivy. Continue on.
It's actually Chris now. So
Chris, please.
So no, I've never been part of the litigation process. So to understand how that all connects together and kind of intertwines into, document creation, document drafting was really wonderful and eye-opening. And in addition to that, just separate from what I've learned, and it also kind of relates to the people that we've been working with. There are so many and they're all listed in the document, but there are so many wonderful people, and some of which I've made connections with that I have never worked with or spoken to before, and either known about or have just met for the first time. And so from a personal growth perspective, and appreciation for their knowledge and skill set, I really appreciate the relationships that I've built through this project. I'm incredibly grateful to Tony and Ivy for putting this together and really driving this. And I just think, just it's kind of helped me just really connect with these people, and I just appreciate them all and what they've been able to deliver, and and who they are. And in some cases, I've had personal conversations where we talk and get to know each other a little bit. And I think that it's just been a wonderful experience. And I can't say enough wonderful things about the people who are involved.
That's great.
So I want to point out that there are a lot of people on this team who don't have JDs.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is a valuable contributor, and we didn't hold anybody back because they didn't have a JD. And I think that just shows the power of collaboration and respecting what anybody can bring to the table. And I'd like to see more of that in the legal world, because everybody has a specialty, everybody has something that they've learned. And if we are putting up these artificial boundaries between JDs and not, then we're hobbling ourselves, and we're minimizing what we can learn. So I want to give a shout out to everybody who jumped in and participated and didn't think that they weren't allowed to be in the room. All of your voices were welcome and are welcome, and we will always have new people shuffling in and off the team. So even if you are somebody who does not have a JD, we still want to hear your voice. And if you want to join, we'll be happy to have you.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, we've seen this discussion for several years now in the legal community. I always say legal services professional or legal professional, seems to be, because there are a variety of people along the supply chain who and certainly along the drafting supply chain. It's been 20 years or close to it since I've been in a law office, but there are a variety of people drafting the document that ends up that's at the end result. So I think it's really important to get input from all of those individuals. So I think that's awesome that you encourage that input and the input from vendors who are creating tools to service those who are drafting these. I think it's fantastic. What will be the next stage of the effectiveness project?
So that's where I briefly touched on the how and the why subdivision of the team. And I will be on the why team. And one of the things that I'm working on is finding a way to trigger that introspection, so that people think, oh, maybe I need some training, or oh, maybe I could use some help, or oh, maybe I could get better at this sort of thing. And that's going to take a lot of change management work. And so I think that change management is really about two things. It's about how do you know what you don't know, and why do you care? Mm-hmm. And to have any success, we'll need to figure those things out, and we'll need to get a lot of input from a lot of people. I should actually point out that before we released the best practices guide that we've now shared links to, we did put out an earlier draft in December 2020 and in January to get feedback from across the legal world. And that feedback was invaluable, and we incorporated it. So feedback is good. It makes everything better, and it helps with also helps with buy-in, which is a key part of change management too.
Yes, excellent. And yeah, it's almost like that. If you want your voice to be heard, you got to vote kind of thing, or you have to, vote with your dollars. Well, if you think that something needs to be changed, you have to participate. So getting that in that, just that participation by answering a survey or providing feedback is immensely helpful. So that's excellent. Chris, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I mean, I want to reiterate what Ivy just said, is that, the feedback was invaluable and the survey itself was pretty extensive. So the people who did contribute their time and energy and thoughts into giving us feedback, we had an idea of what we needed to do, and this gave us those last pieces that kind of put everything together and made it all fall into place. And that, what's important to you perspective, and that really helped a lot. And that, and I just want to, I got to say again, I mean, this was a lot of questions. We wanted real information, and we wanted you to share your experiences and what works for you, what doesn't. And this was, well received. So thank you to all who put in your thoughts and shared your knowledge with us and filled out those survey forms. I know it probably took you some time, but it was well worth it, because the product that we put together for you, and it was all used, every single piece of feedback you gave.
And with that, I want to give a shout out. Colin Levy and Sherry Capel did a lot of the work of incorporating those comments and feedback into the document that you saw. Chris and I did a lot of the work at doing the final polishing of the document, but at every stage, somebody had to own the process. And I definitely think that Colin and Sherry deserve some kudos for the work they did there.
Yeah, and Colin was here earlier, and then he left early, which he will be hearing about later. But thank you, Colin, for your efforts. Don't think I don't notice.
And later on.
Yeah, and later on, it will continue. So how many people in this? There's a list. There's Latera, I see, as a part of this. I think it's Squire Patton Boggs, Latera, LexisNexis, Colin, Preliminary. So several folks who have been on the show, in addition to Wordrake and DocStyle. But how many individuals are in this big collaboration?
I think there were 12 in total, and 3 of them have, I think, moved on. So we have 9 incomplete, and that includes Ivy and Tony, who have been pioneering this since the beginning. Is my math wrong? I think I'm right.
It's something like that. I don't really keep track.
I mean, it's a sizable working group.
It is. And I mean, there's just so much to be done, because in the legal world, we rely so heavily on documents. It's the one thing that every legal professional works on, regardless of their practice area, regardless of their title. We're all part of document creation. So it takes the whole village to get that done.
Yeah. So how long will this project, will this morph into, is there a deadline? I guess it would be my first question, Ivy or Chris. Is there a deadline for completing the goals or the mission of this project, or do you see this as an ongoing project?
It's an ongoing project.
Okay.
I don't see a final deadline or anything like that. As long as there's work to be done and people who are interested in doing it, I think that it will continue.
Okay.
I am attempting to bite off a little less, but we all know my personality, and that doesn't go very well. So
I can't imagine that that's going real well, but it's also
the
what
only
is
thing
loved.
she's failing at right now.
Yeah, because there's never much failure with Ivy. So, okay, so it's an ongoing project. That's so maybe what do you see? What do the two of you see? Let's say a year out from now, what would the effectiveness project like to have accomplished or be in the midst of accomplishing?
Well, I think we'd like to give people the opportunities to now take action on this document. So that's without question, one of the next steps that we're going to be putting forward. And, from there, we're going to continue to evaluate what's relevant and valuable. And I think that for me is the key of, how do we continue or not, is, are we able to continue to provide a high quality work product and actually drive some real value to the industry, and to simultaneously improve somebody's understanding and education of the process, and maybe not just documents, but beyond, and in how we continue to evolve. So this to me is also an ongoing investment, and that's how I look at it, like an investment in the industry. And so if you're going to, as a vendor, ask, give and take, you also want to contribute as well, and provide, your expertise in ways that you find can benefit all. Because ultimately, if we all improve and we all understand how to work more effectively, then I think we all can, profit and prosper and succeed together. I think that's really important.
It's an excellent goal. Ivy, how about you? Where do you see it in the next year?
I hope to have a self-assessment available in the next year. I think that's something concrete, but finding the right approach to a self-assessment that actually leads people to where I'd like them to go is going to be the big challenge.
Self-assessment, just for clarity here, for the actual draft person doing the drafting.
For the person who wants to do the drafting. So do I have the relevant skills? Should I get some training? Who should I talk to about this thing? Was this the best way to do things? And triggering those considerations is difficult. So we have to find the right scenarios to get people thinking in that way. And I don't know what that is yet, but I'm determined to find out. So
the best person to find that out, I would say, Ivy, how do I find this out about somebody, and how do I get this call to action? How do I trigger these considerations? So I believe that you're capable, but that's excellent. So it may not necessarily have to be everybody who's doing the drafting. It may be maybe somebody with some influence in the drafting process in an organization who is trying to get the organization to do it better.
Right.
Yes.
And it's awareness, right? So it's about, well, I think I'm a 6 out of 10 in terms of my capability, but I've gone through this assessment process and I understand that I'm a 3 out of 10. And I really need to, because I didn't really consider all of the things that, are maybe outside of what I'm doing directly. And, so there are, or maybe I am, at a certain level, and I could improve that even further by taking advantage of certain assets and resources that are available in the industry and in the community. And so, those are things that I think are important to be able to empower people with, is that sense of, of understanding of, what am I capable of? What is really going to help me improve my skill set? And ultimately, how can I deliver a better product? Again, coming back to that again, to the client, because the clients today, they're becoming more savvy and aware. And I think they understand what to expect more so than they have in the past. And so if you're now presenting a work product to a customer, and that customer, that client looks at it and says, okay, well, this doesn't work for me. I can't really use this because I need it to be accessible and in an e-reader, and you didn't do any of that stuff that I need to make this work in that way. You have some, you can have some issues with your client, and you may not get, retained for more work. And that ultimately is what you want. You want repeat business. You want
So
customers.
I think that sounds really technically focused. And I think that we have to remember that the technology, like the tech skills that go into creating a document, they don't just exist in this vacuum. They're not tech skills for the sake of tech skills. They're tech skills to deliver the content and the advice and the value that you owe to your clients. And that's, to me, why the effectiveness part is just so important. A client that can see the structure of the document is going to have a better time using that document, and if they can easily find, the indemnity provision so that they know what their obligations and their rights are, then they're going to get more value from that contract. You don't just write this contract and then stick it in a drawer. It's supposed to be useful. It's supposed to govern your relationship between these two parties.
Mhm.
The same with litigation documents. They're meant to prove your point and help you to enforce your rights or claim your remedies. And all of that is part of a document that works. And I just don't think that we've spent a lot of time overall in the legal world thinking enough about how the document delivers something useful, not just a piece of paper.
Right. The open and conspicuous language has been abused, for example, in 20-page documents, and now we've got caps and bolds and red, and it's all overwhelming to even look at it. So that's interesting, looking at the actual form and substance of the contract to see how this can be improved.
And I think that's what was meant to happen with the duty of technology competence and having it added as a comment rather than as a separate rule, because it was meant to say that you must be competent in everything that you do and everything that you use to do the substantive things. There aren't two separate rules, one for the substance and one for the technology. It's all together. And I hope that people will start to see that the technology and any other tool that you use is a vehicle for the substantive matter, and it reinforces the substantive value of what you're providing.
Wow. Well, we're about 40 minutes in. I don't want to keep you all night. So what are a couple of things, because I know Ivy's got notes. What didn't I ask Ivy that needs to be shared?
Oh, thanks for calling me out.
You knew I was going to tease you. There was no way you were getting away without getting teased a little bit.
Well, I worked it in. I
did you work most of it in?
Yes, I did.
She's learned how to speak, Nick, and she'll redirect as necessary. Is there anything that needs to be shared, though, that we didn't cover? You guys gave some shout outs, which was very kind of you, and I think appropriate for this type of working group. Anything else that needs to be covered, how people can get involved, how they can learn about the Effectiveness Project, anything like that?
Just go ahead and use the links that we provided. And for the podcast listeners, that would be ltc4.org/effectiveness-project. And that would be the best way to get it. If you would like to be involved, if you have questions, you can tweet at any of us or just use social media. It's probably the fastest way to get to us. We welcome lots of people to join the team. We understand that people will cycle in and out. Though I was the spark behind the Effectiveness Project, it doesn't live and die with me. If I move on to other things or I don't have time to work on it, this project will continue without me. And if you're just waiting for this project to exist without me, tell Chris.
Can't imagine Chris would want that. And I do want to
alone would, yeah,
it would overwhelm Chris. He couldn't do it.
Explode my mind. Yeah, I can't.
And I will say for our podcast listeners, just one more time, that's LTC and the number 4. ltc4.org. And if you go there, you'll see links to the effectiveness project if you didn't get the whole extra URL or domain there. So check that out. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you can go to the website, you can view the document online, you can download the entire paper, or you can download modules that you want to review and consider. You can view the modules online. It's a lot of different ways in which you can grab and access this information. The content within is invaluable. I highly recommend that you at least read the entire document all the way through one time. There are things that even I learned that I didn't know, which is, after 23 years in legal technology, in a document that talks about the legal process, but also references technology, you think you know a lot, you're still learning. And this is a wonderful reminder that we are all still learning. So don't be shy. You will come away with some value and improvement in your own understanding from looking at this. So please go to the site and download it. And if you have any questions, all of us will be happy to talk to you. And we would absolutely love for people who want to contribute to join. And I don't think there are any restrictions whatsoever. So please, if you care, if you want to make a difference, be a part of this. It is a special working group, and the people are a lot of vendors, some of them competing, are all working together in a very kumbaya collaborative way. And it's actually quite nice. So
I mean, I'll also add, if you think we just mucked it up, tell us. It's really hard to improve things in this world without that sort of open, frank communication. So if you think that we just totally got it wrong or got one section wrong or what have you, please tell us. We want to learn. We want to help the legal world, and we need honest feedback so that we can accomplish those goals.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Chris, how do folks get in touch with you?
You can contact me by email, so cangero@docstyle.net, or go to the website and just call me. That'll work too.
And that's Cangero, it's Cangero, and that's Cangero.
Correct.
Docstyle.net, and also at Chris Cangero on Twitter, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And Ivy, how do people get in touch with you?
You can email me. I am I as in igloo, V as in Victor, YG @wordrake.com. And on Twitter and all the other socials, I'm Ivy B as in boy Gray. And I'm same thing on every channel.
Though I will say that's Gray spelled Grey rather than the other
like
one.
Grey's Anatomy or
Correct.
50 Shades.
That's right.
People get the 50 Shades reference more than they get the Grey's Anatomy reference.
Really?
So, yeah.
Interesting. Well,
Because
thank
I
you.
double check that for the first 3 months of my professional relationship with Ivy, just to make sure that I was typing it right. So there was an onboarding period to being friends with Ivy Gray. So yes.
Sure. Thank you both for being here tonight. Don't disappear when we stop recording. I'll give you some follow-up. Next week, we will be back for the last episode of the season, of the year, I should say. We'll be here with Alan Rodriguez. He is, if you know Alan, which many of you do, he's been active in legal technology through 1-400, and he is now a non-lawyer owner of a law firm out of the Arizona sandbox. So should be interesting to hear how the Arizona. So it will be interesting to hear how that is going. So join us next week. Ivy and Chris, thank you so much. Don't disappear, and we will see you soon. Have a good night, all.
Good night.